It always begins the same way. She looks at you not for who you are, but for who she thinks you could become. You've felt it, haven't you? That spark in her gaze. Hope, maybe. Or maybe it's something else. Hunger. That subtle, almost invisible scan, like she's not looking at a person, but a possibility. Like you're a blank canvas and she's already mixing the colors to paint her masterpiece. But the painting, it's not of you. It never was. Carl Jung tried to warn us, and he didn't do it with soft, self-help platitudes. He did it with the chilling clarity of someone who spent his life peering into the deepest corners of the human psyche. Jung dedicated himself to mapping what he called the unconscious, the vast, silent territory of the mind that operates below awareness. And what he discovered about women, it's not easy to hear. He found that women don't just fall in love with men, they fall in love with ideas of men, with projections, with fantasies. The scariest part, most of them don't even realize they're doing it. You think she's choosing you, but she's really choosing the version of you that she built in her mind. You're not the main character, you're the stand-in. And once you stop reading your lines the way she imagined, she recasts the role. She keeps the fantasy, changes. The actor. Jung had a word for this, the animus. It's the inner masculine image that lives inside every woman's psyche. And when that animus is immature, undeveloped, or left unchecked, it doesn't stay quiet. It becomes dominant, overpowering, a tyrant. That's when women start chasing dangerous men, pushing away the kind ones, arguing with no logic, controlling, without wisdom, and moralizing with no accountability. Jung didn't sugarcoat it. He called it what it is: spiritual possession. That's when a woman isn't speaking from herself anymore. She's channeling something else, something internal but unconscious, a fantasy that has taken hold of her, shaping her behavior, her choices, her reactions. And you are drawn to it, not because you understand it, but because no one ever taught you how to see it. You think desire equals connection. You confuse being wanted with being known. You hear her say you're different, and you believe it. But what she means is, you're different from the last actor who fumbled her script. When the illusion breaks, and the fantasy crumbles, you're left standing there stunned, heartbroken, blindsided, wondering what the hell you did wrong. But you didn't do anything wrong. You just stopped playing the part she wrote for you. Jung said there's only one way out of this psychological theater, a process he called individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole within yourself. Here's the truth. No one tells you. Most men never start that journey. You've been trained since birth to seek approval, to chase validation, to measure your worth through a woman's eyes. And so, like a good performer, you learn to shapeshift. You bend, you flex, you adapt, hoping, praying, that if you just do it right this time, she'll finally see you. Not the mask, not the role but it never happens, because you've been picked for the part, not for who you are, but for who she needs you to be. Individuation isn't sexy. It's not a self-help checklist. It's brutal. It forces you to dig up the parts of yourself you'd rather leave buried, the insecure you, the weak you, the broken you. It forces you to stop blaming women for not seeing you and demands you start seeing yourself. Because here's what Jung knew, and what most men never figure out: you don't become a man by being chosen. You become a man by choosing yourself. Your value doesn't come from being wanted. It comes from being willing to stand alone, fully awake, fully responsible, fully alive. A man who has faced his own unconscious can't be seduced by projection. He's not some marionette dancing on someone else's emotional strings. He becomes the author of his own life. Jung saw the tragedy unfold again and again. Men shaping themselves into whatever they believe would be accepted. They call it compromise. They call it love. But Jung called it something darker: self-betrayal. Because when you ignore your own inner growth, when you abandon your psychic development, you become a slave to someone else's dream. You twist yourself into the shape she desires, shapes even she doesn't understand, until you're no longer a man. You're just a mask. And women, they feel that, on a level deeper than words. The very traits you think will make her love you, your loyalty, your predictability, your availability, those are often the same things that erode her attraction. Why? Because the feminine Jung taught isn't pulled toward comfort. It's pulled toward mystery, toward the man she can't quite capture, can't fully define, can't bend into shape. The moment you make yourself too available, too soft, too agreeable, you vanish. not in a literal sense, but in her psyche. You become invisible. And here's the twisted irony. You fear loneliness more than you fear inauthenticity. You'd rather lose yourself than lose her. You'd rather wear the mask than risk the silence of standing alone. But Jung said that until a man walks through that silence into that solitude, he'll never be free. He wrote that individuation is not for the faint-hearted, because it requires you to die before you die, to let your false self, your mask, your performance, your persona burn. And in that burning, something true can finally rise. But make no mistake, this path is lonely, deeply lonely, because once you start seeing the game for what it is, you can't unsee it. You notice the roles people play, the stories they tell themselves, the lies they believe because the truth would shatter their comfort, and when you try to speak it, they don't thank you, they don't applaud you, they resist you. They'll call you cold, arrogant, distant, too much in your head. They'll say you are the problem, but you're not the problem, you're just the mirror, and mirrors don't lie, they reflect. But most people don't want to see what they've become. Jung spent decades watching this unfold. People terrified to confront their shadow, the dark buried parts of themselves they've disowned. And in women especially, he noticed a pattern. They're often raised in cultures that reward avoidance, cultures that tell them they are already complete, already divine, already perfect, just as they are. Jung didn't buy it. He wrote that the greatest danger to women was not the external world, but their unconscious animus, that inner masculine voice that speaks not with humility, but with false certainty, not with wisdom, but with inflated self-righteousness. And unless a woman faces that inner voice, integrates it, confronts it, she will remain possessed by it, and every man she meets will carry the burden of a war she refuses to fight inside herself. And you'll think you can save her. You'll think you're the one, the exception, the man who finally wins the impossible battle. But you're not, and you can't. That's not how projection works. Projection doesn't ask your permission. It doesn't knock politely and wait for you to explain yourself. It walks right in, puts you in costume, hands you a script, and expects you to perform on cue. That's what Jung meant when he said projection is a thief. It robs people of reality. It replaces truth with illusion. And until you learn to see it in yourself and in others, you'll keep living out the same story over and over again. You'll call it chemistry. You'll call it passion. You'll call it fate. But Jung called it what it really is, possession. And this dance, it goes both ways. Men fall into the trap of being chosen, mistaking that attention as proof of worth. But what they don't realize is that they're often being cast in a play they didn't write, a fantasy she's had rehearsing in her mind since she was a child. And when you forget your lines, when you fail to hit your marks, she won't rewrite the fantasy. She just replaced the actor, and she won't even know she's doing it. That's the psychological betrayal Jung talked about. It's not rooted in malice, it's rooted in unawareness. She's not out to hurt you. She just doesn't realize that the man she's disappointed in was never real to begin with. He was never you. And yet, that doesn't make the pain any less real. You feel betrayed, rejected, confused. But the betrayal wasn't personal, it was archetypal. She wasn't seeing you in the first place. She was interacting with an inner images symbol, not a soul. And the only way out of this loop, this psychological trap, is to take ownership, full ownership, not just of your behavior, but of your inner world. To stop asking, why did she do this to me? And start asking, why did I let it happen? Because that's the part most men don't want to hear. They want to blame her, call her manipulative, deceptive, shallow. But Jung would have looked you straight in the eye and asked, why did you allow yourself to be chosen by someone who couldn't see you? Why were you drawn to the fantasy? Why did you surrender your power just to be part of someone else's story? And the answer, if you're honest, is simple. Because it was easier. It was easier to play the man than to become one. It was easier to fit into her idea than to confront the emptiness inside you. The void that you've been trying to fill with her love, her approval, her belief in your potential. You weren't a victim. You were a volunteer. And as long as you keep avoiding that truth, you'll stay stuck in the loop. You'll keep performing, keep proving, keep pretending, hoping that maybe this time, someone will finally choose you for you. But that day never comes, because you haven't chosen yourself yet. And here's where most men stop listening, right here. Because this is where the comfort ends and the real work begins. The hard, unglamorous work of self-confrontation, of sitting in silence, of asking questions that have no easy answers. Who am I when no one's watching? Who am I when no one needs me? Who am I without her? And if those questions make your stomach turn good, that's the beginning. Because Jung didn't promise answers, he didn't promise peace. What he promised was a path, a terrifying, freeing, lonely path toward becoming whole. And that path starts with killing the lie that says you're nothing without her, the lie that says you need her to validate your manhood, the lie that whispers you're only enough when you're chosen. That lie will fight for its life, that it'll scream, it'll panic, it'll pull you toward anything and anyone that gives you even a hint of approval. But you have to let it die. You have to let the fantasy collapse, let the false self burn. Not because you hate women, not because you're bitter, but because you're finally ready to stop living as a ghost in someone else's dream. And when you do, that really do it, you become something rare. You become real. And ironically, that's when women become the most drawn to you, not because you need them, but because you don't. There's a calm, grounded energy in a man who has walked through his own darkness. He doesn't posture, he doesn't chase, he doesn't cling. He just is, fully present, fully alive, fully sovereign. And women, especially women who've started doing their own inner work, feel that. They're not pulled to you because you fill their fantasy. They're pulled to you because you've stopped performing, because you've stepped off the stage. You've stopped playing a character. You've become a man. And here's the paradox most people can't accept. The less you need to be chosen, the more magnetic you become, because that energy, the energy of someone who is whole, disrupts people. They don't know what to do with it. It's unfamiliar. It's unsettling, especially for those who are still trapped in the performance. People will say you've changed, you've become distant, too analytical, too serious. They'll try to pull you back into the script, into the role you used to play, into the version of you that made them feel safe. But you won't go back, because once you've tasted real freedom, false connection becomes unbearable. Jung warned that the individuated mantha, one who has truly done the work, is rarely celebrated. He's not the life of the party. He's not everyone's best friend. He's often misunderstood, feared, rejected, but not because he's wrong, because he's no longer controllable. He's no longer manipulable. He's no longer available for roles he didn't audition for, and that makes people, especially women, still living in fantasy, deeply uncomfortable. They can't mold you. They can't guilt you. They can't seduce you with the idea that you'll finally be enough if you just play your part, because you don't need to be enough for them anymore. You're already enough for you. And that's when things get interesting, because the very people who once admired your openness, your sensitivity, your romantic devotion, now they resent you for not needing them. They say you're emotionally unavailable, that you've changed, that you're too much in your head. But what they really mean is this: they can no longer control you. You're no longer a puppet dancing on invisible strings. You've stepped off the stage and walked into your own story. And that's terrifying. To those who haven't done the same, Jung once said, the gods have become diseases. What ancient people used to call divine possession, modern psychology now calls neurosis. And if that's true, then men chasing validation are the most spiritually sick of all. You think it's romantic to say things like, she's my everything, or I'd do anything for her. But Jung would have looked at you with quiet disappointment and told you the truth. What you call love is often a refusal to carry your own soul. It's easier to hand it to her, to let her carry your purpose, your meaning, your identity. But she wasn't built for that. No woman is. And when she realizes the weight you've placed on her shoulders, she drop it. She has to drop it. Not because she's cruel, but because she was never meant to hold what you were supposed to claim. And when she does, you'll feel betrayed. But you shouldn't. You should thank her. Because in that moment, when the illusion shatters, you finally meet the truth, that the work of becoming a man was never hers to do. It was always yours. And in that raw, soul-shaking moment, when the fantasy breaks and you're left staring at your own reflection without her to define you, you have two paths. One, you can blame her. You can retreat into resentment. Join the chorus of angry men, yelling into the void about how women are shallow, manipulative, or broken. You can harden, close off, swear them off like they were the disease and not the mirror. Or two, you can do what Jung would have demanded of you. You can turn inward. You can start the brutal, terrifying, liberating work of individuation, the process of becoming whole without someone else's approval, without needing to be chosen, without needing to be needed. Because here's the truth you've been avoiding. The woman you've been searching for out there, she's just a reflection, a mirror of the part of yourself you've abandoned. And until you face that inner abandonment, every relationship will be a reenactment. Every love will be a lie wrapped in performance. Every I love you will secretly mean, please validate me. But when you finally do the work, when you face that inner void, confront your own feminine aspects, your own unmet emotional needs, your own deep longing to be whole, you stop chasing women, not because you become cold or indifferent, but because you're already full. You don't run after them. You don't perform for them. You don't manipulate or posture or beg to be seen. You stand still, rooted, grounded, fully present in who you are. And something incredible happens when you reach that state. You no longer attract women who want you to play a part. You attract women who want the truth. You'll know it when it happens, because she won't come to you as a fantasy or a test. She won't flood you with promises or expect you to complete her puzzle. She won't need you to save her. She won't be looking for a hero, because she's done the work too. She's met her shadow. She's faced her animus. She's walked through the same fire and burned off the illusions. And when she looks at you truly, looks at you, it won't be with projection. It'll be with recognition. You'll see it in her eyes. Not hunger, not hope, but something far more powerful. Presence. She's not looking at a fantasy. She's meeting you, and she doesn't need to mold you, fix you, or make you her project. She sees you, and not just the parts that are strong and composed. She sees the whole of you. The broken parts, the quiet doubts, the parts no one else has ever held without flinching. And she doesn't flinch. She doesn't need to control you, because she doesn't fear you. She's not clinging to you, because she's not afraid of being alone. And that's when you realize, this is different. This isn't the kind of love that devours. It's the kind that stands beside you, shoulder to shoulder. Two people, whole on their own, walking forward not to complete each other, but to witness each other. No masks, no roles, no projections, just truth. And that kind of love, Jung said, it's the rarest kind, and the most dangerous, because it demands nothing. It only offers. It exists, not out of need, but out of freedom. Freedom to walk away. Freedom to stay. Freedom to love without losing yourself. But let me be honest with you, most of you will never get there, not because you're incapable, but because you'll quit before the breakthrough. You'll settle for the performance, for the illusion, for the shallow thrill of being seen as someone you're not, because becoming who you really are still feels too terrifying. And that's the tragedy. Because if you had the courage to keep walking, to keep standing alone, to keep burning away every false version of yourself, you would reach a place few men ever do. You'd reach the edge of something beautiful, something vast, something real. You'd meet yourself, and in that meeting everything changes. Women are no longer the source of your identity. They're no longer the mirror you use to feel like a man. They become something else entirely. Partners, not prizes, mirrors, not mothers, allies, not saviors. And you'll love them, not because you need them, but because you choose to. From a place of strength, from a place of truth, from a place that no longer apologizes for being whole. Jung didn't leave behind a map. He wasn't in the business of giving shortcuts or how-to guides. What he left was a challenge, a warning, a call to action that he told every man. In essence, if you don't confront yourself, if you don't take responsibility for your own soul, you will become a puppet, yanked around by the projections of others, especially by the unconscious fantasies of women. But if you do the work, if you step off the stage and become the author of your life, then no one, not her, not society, not your past can write your story for you. You will not be seduced by illusions. You will not be controlled by fear. You will not be reduced to a role, because you will have become the kind of man who lives from the inside out, not from the outside in. And if you've made it this far, if something in your chest is stirring, if you feel a quiet yes rising up inside, you don't scroll past this, because this isn't just for you. It's for the next man still stuck in the performance, still begging to be chosen, still believing he has to earn his manhood through someone else's eyes. This is your chance to help him. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear the truth. Subscribe so we can keep spreading this message, not for likes, not for views, but for liberation. So the next man doesn't spend his whole life trapped in a script he didn't write, so we can wake up, one by one, man by man, together.